Does your marketing feel so scattered like what we used to call as kids, the 52 card pickup, which is basically when you toss those cards into the air and they just landed where they landed. And if you were like me, you just kind of picked them up and started all over again. And I never really quite understood why we did that game or what it was all about. But I guess it sounded fun when you were a kid, just kind of throwing them up and letting everything fall where they would. So in today's marketing, though, that's definitely not the approach you want to take. And one of the reasons that we're doing this today is to teach you a whole new approach. Obviously, you don't set out to start with a 52 card pickup in your marketing approach. It just kind of ends up to be that way when one of two things happens. Either your brand is not super defined, or you just don't have consistency with the brand. So either one of those things will get you in the same spot. And so what we're going to talk about today is a new approach called the 3D Dominoes effect instead.
Yeah, actually cue that video right here. We want to show you a video off of one of my favorite movies, V for Vendetta. It's going to give you a little bit of a visual about what we're going to be talking about in the domino effect and how precise your marketing should actually be. All right. All right. That's how your marketing should look, folks. Close and shut. No, let's talk about that. Okay. What's the 3D domino effect, right? It's just like what we just saw. When you set up the dominoes in a pattern that you want and then kick that domino originally to kick it off, and that marketing does exactly what you want it to do. It's like a defined path, right? That's what the 3D domino effect is. And it comes from all three steps that we teach in our program, all which begin with a D. My marketing was all over the place when I started working with Tanya. We've been in business for many years. We had a lot of marketing out there. We were on a lot of platforms, but it was all over the place, just like that 52 card pickup. And then when I hired Tanya and she came in on board and started working with us, she first off decided what we had and what we were trying to get across to our public. And then she started putting her arms around it to develop the approach to be able to make that perfect for us to fall in place, just like those dominoes on that video that you just saw.
So let's get started with the first D in the 3D dominoes effect. And that is, probably no surprise, defining yourself, right? So it starts with a point of differentiation. What is that one thing that sets you apart from everybody else that's truly unique? And a lot of times we start that process with what we call a brand identifier. Some people might call it a tagline or a slogan. We call it a brand identifier. Any of those will work. But your brand identifier needs to either state who you are or what you do. And that kind of sets the tone. It's not, quote, the brand, it's what we build a brand around. And so that brand identifier really has to meet three criteria. Number one, it must be unique, right? Something different, something to kick the door open and capture somebody's attention. So if your brand identifier is, let's just say, Houston's real estate expert. Well, first of all, that's quite boring. Second of all, it kind of just goes over your head. It's very expected, I would say, and it's not terribly interesting. And so you want that brand identifier that states who you are, what you do, to be super interesting and be something that captures attention from the very beginning. Second criteria is it must be authentic to you, both from a personal and a professional standpoint. So that brand identifier needs to be something that is truly who you are. We like to say we don't create cartoon brands. We create brands that are truly who you are as a human being, professionally and personally. And then the third criteria is it must be meaningful to your ideal customer, because if it's not, why bother, right? A lot of people get one or two out of those three, right? But very few people actually get all three of those criteria correct to have a really strong point of differentiation. The goal of that is to be remembered long after others are forgotten. And so just to give you guys an idea of what a really strong brand identifier would be, but we have a real estate agent in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Her name is Teresa Stark. And this is actually some artwork from one of her recent postcards that went out to her farming area. But Teresa's brand identifier is actually your home navigator. You can see it here in her logo and here in her logo as well. And the reason she is known as your home navigator is that she, number one, knows the waterways in that area like nobody else. She and her husband are actually competitive anglers. She focuses 100% on luxury waterfront properties in the area, and then she's participates in the social scene and waterfront activities. So all of that together made for a beautiful brand identifier, because that word navigator is actually most often applied to water. And then in terms of, quote, finding that home navigator presents this beautiful double entendre for her. So she has really adapted to this brand and now just owns this brand and breathes it. And so that will give you a really good idea of what that brand identifier can do for somebody. It's really unique. You know, it captures the attention. And on top of that, let's take a look at those three criteria for Teresa. Number one, it's truly unique. It's not Fort Lauderdale's real estate expert or something kind of boring like that. It's very different. Number two, it is authentic to who she is. She is 100% about the waterfront lifestyle and activities, and that's what she lives and breathes. And number three, it's meaningful to her ideal customer, because her customers, those luxury waterfront customers, need to know that she knows the area, that she participates in the lifestyle, that she can guide them through the process and find that waterfront property for them. So again, you can kind of see how things pulled together here. Let me navigate the buying and selling for you, kind of pulling in that brand. La Hermitage community is one of the top communities in the area, and selling really well. It's waterfront activities there. Enjoy an exclusive lifestyle. So it has this beautiful, luxurious look to it. And so I just thought I would share with you guys one example of how a brand identifier really, really works for somebody, and how it can hit all three of those criteria.
Excellent. All right. Second, folks, the next D in your domino effect is develop. We develop a strong brand wrapped around your point of differentiation. It's a very big deal to separate yourself and find what you are good at, and then to differentiate yourself from your competitors. Everything about what that brand looks like, feels like, sounds like is what we help develop. We start with branding messaging, which is perhaps the most critical part of the brand, is how we communicate effectively exactly how we stand out against our competitors, okay? And then what we do is we take a look at the image of the brand. We recommend a personal branding logo that will add depth and professional look to that brand. We also choose a small collection of brand images that will resonate with the brand and your ideal customer, because your branding should be focused on somebody that you really want to do business with, not a spray and pray style, but actually going after those customers that you want to work with. Finally, we recommend a professional photo shoot as well. And you need to make sure your photos portray the exact image that you deserve, and also is targeted, once again, to the ideal customer that you're going after. So you take the point of differentiation, and then you do poses. You make sure your facial expressions and things like that help you to sell what your point of differentiation is, okay? Now, let me say something about this step, because we always have people inside of our program, including me. When I started the program with Tanya, you have a step back and you're like, okay, look, I don't want to be egotistical. I don't want to be arrogant about what I'm doing here. But this is not what we're doing, folks. We're not going and taking photos to produce some kind of an arrogant air. We're producing photos of authenticity that back up exactly what people are looking at on your branding images and elements, and the messaging that you're trying to get across from them. And it's very important. You want to look at it like this. It's about presenting you as a solution to your ideal customer. And it's showcasing why exactly they should choose you over all of the other competitors. And that's very important. We develop a personal brand for our clients' ideal customers so they can clearly see why they want to do business with that particular person. And Tanya is famous, of course, for saying people don't do business with a logo, they do business with a person. And seeing your face and your image on your marketing materials is natural, and it is super smart marketing, okay? Second, it doesn't stop here. What's important about your brand is that everything has to encompass that, and it has to say the same thing. All of the messages, the photos, the images, the colors, the logo, all of it has to stay consistent and say the same message. You don't want two messages out there and going after two different styles of customers. You really want to try to focus on one message until everybody really gets to know that that's exactly what you do. It's all about authenticity.
Okay, so the third D in the 3D dominoes effect is display. And what that means is all of those parts and pieces Michael was just talking about, from your photo shoot to your brand images to all of your brand messaging, your logo, all of those things that he just said make a brand together. We take those and then make sure that your new brand is displayed correctly and consistently across all of your marketing platforms. So talking about your website, making sure your website's customized with your new branding materials, and your social channels, your everyday marketing materials, kind of like your business card, your thank you card or note card, and literally everywhere else you market or advertise should have that same consistent look and feel and message to it. And I'll tell you, the most important part of what we do is repetition, right? So I'll tell you a little story about when I used to be in radio. I was in sales for a very long time in radio, and the clients would sometimes say to me, well, look, I've got 30 commercials running this week, and can't I just take 15 of those with one message and 15 with another message? And what they were thinking in their mind is they're just doubling up on their chances of doing business, because if people don't like this route then or this message and this call to action, maybe they'll respond to this call to action. But really what you're doing is you're cutting your why in half, right? So they may remember your name, because obviously your name or your business name is in all 30 commercials throughout the week, and that's fine, but you're missing the most important part, and that's the repetition of the why. Why do business with you? So make sure that that message is consistent across all of those. And that really is what brought to mind for me the importance of consistency and displaying that consistency, whether it's through the imaging in a radio ad or messaging in a radio ad, or imagery in a Facebook ad, or any other places that we put our image and our brand. So to me, that was a really important part of the concept. And we always like to talk about, frequency is very important, but frequency can only be attained if it's frequency of the same message. So just keep that in mind. That's really important. And it doesn't matter what type of advertising you're doing when it comes to displaying or marketing. It could be your free platforms, such as your organic posts on your Facebook page. It could be your paid materials like your billboards, TV ads, radio ads, videos, any magazines. Once you get through the define, develop, and display stage, you'll have all those parts and pieces to be able to present that consistent image that you deserve out there on every marketing platform, free or paid. So that's the final one. So we've got define, develop, and display. And now we move on to, okay, once you put these things in place, what does that mean?
Yeah, the 3 Ds, they lead to the outcome that you want, which is more customers and more consistent customers and the ideal customer. So when you stop the 52 card pickup that we've all been guilty of, when you get out of the third-party sites cycle and churn, and then you start doing the 3D dominoes approach, the path is defined perfectly, just like we saw on the video. And when that first domino falls, it will follow you. It will take you exactly to where you want to go. And it'll paint that picture just like we showed you on that first slide. And it'll all come back around to you. And here's what you can expect when you do this approach. You can expect that the unique brand that captures everybody's attention, it clearly sets you apart from other competitors. It attracts your ideal customer, and it can give you the platforms to reach celebrity status. It makes your marketing more impactful, right? Because we want our marketing dollars to go as far as possible. We want that ROI to come back to us, that rate of return on our advertising, and boost your return on investment. And this will be the outcome that you deserve.
And let me piggyback on boost your return on investment, because I do get this question a lot. A lot of people will jump on a strategy session with me and talk about all the marketing failures they've had in the past. And this is that whole 52 card pickup approach, right? And usually the tendency is to blame the marketing platform, right? They say, well, none of that stuff works. None of that stuff works. Well, the good news is it actually does work. Those platforms work if there's two things happening. As long as your ideal customer is on the other end of that marketing platform and the message that you are sending out to them is resonating and is meaningful to that ideal customer, that platform is going to work for you, and it really doesn't matter what it is. So what really is the most important thing to learn from all of this is that a well-defined, developed, and displayed brand is the only thing that changes everything. Because it's not the marketing platforms that you use, it's how you use them. And once you're defined and your brand is developed to give you that image that you deserve out there and is displayed correctly and consistently across everything, the marketing platform only matters to the extent that your ideal customer's on the other end and you got the message right, right? And really a great brand is the only thing that changes every one of those marketing platforms. It's the only thing that will impact all of those and get them to produce a strong ROI. On the heels of that, we have another quote that says a well-defined and developed and displayed brand is the only thing that never stops producing leads. And to that point, let's say you've been spending money on Facebook ads. Well, I can promise you that if you stop spending money tomorrow, you'll stop getting those leads in your inbox, right? So those stop when you stop spending money. But when you invest in your brand and pull it all together in a really well-developed and defined and displayed brand, that's going to be used on every single marketing platform. And that is the only thing that never stops producing leads for you is the why. Why choose me? You're using those marketing platforms to get that message out of why choose me, but you've got to have the message defined and developed first of the why choose me. Okay, so that is the why behind you.